Thanks everyone for joining us. This is Anchor Best Practices. Work smarter, not harder. So today we're going to discuss some of what makes Anchor really rock out there, and we've got a number of resources here. I'm going to go and talk about who's here today. First of all, I'm Tom Watson, and I am Director of MSP Best Practices here at eFolder. I am also the host of MSP Ignition, where I go over best practices for being a better MSP, building your business up, maybe selling it someday, or just making a lot of money. And then I've got joined with me too, Eric Henrich, and he works for Workplace IT out of Sioux Falls. And I met him through a partner success call, and he just had some great information about what he was doing there with Anchor. And I'd like him to introduce himself real quick, maybe tell us a few words about yourself, Eric.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, my name is Eric Henrich. I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I work for an MSP called Workplace IT Management. We've been using and reselling Anchor for a little over 4 years now. Been a great product for us, and really excited to kind of share our story about it.
Great, thank you. And then I've got kind of a special, like last minute, I got Gary Hill on here, and he is our sales engineer. And Gary's kind of unique to work here at eFolder. And maybe, Gary, you can tell us a little about your experience and what you bring to the table.
Absolutely. I've been here at eFolder for about 6 months now. I came from an MSP prior to working at eFolder. We used the Anchor product for the last 3 years prior to coming over. So my specialties really dove around the Anchor product and helping make partners very successful that are coming on board here.
Great, thanks. We're going to get going, and then we're each going to have a few slides we cover and try to give you some ideas, and you're welcome to post questions along the way. So first of all, what we're going to cover today is how to position and sell Anchor. We're going to go over some of the eFolder recommendations, including as a standalone offering. Also going to look at, I've got a really cool MSP break-even calculator that I dug up from a sales rep who was here years ago, and we kind of made this into a pretty cool Excel spreadsheet. And we're going to make that available to you. We're going to send that out probably in a link or in an email, follow up from this, and you'll be able to use that to kind of make sure you're making money with it. And then Anchor Service Plans, which is a really cool web page we have of our site. And then Eric's going to go into how a real world example of how they actually sell Anchor and position it. I'm going to go into bundling Anchor and how to position it and some of the best practices that I know of. And then Gary's going to go through some real in the field scenarios of where you can really talk about Anchor and position it well with your clients. So first of all, we're going to go through here. This is going to be a pricing model. We recently did some training on Anchor in-house, and I've kind of taken some of those materials. I've got some really great stuff here. So one of the things I say is, if you're not at the point of really bundling this into a service agreement, why don't you just sell it at a multiple of your cost? Get it monthly, quarterly, on a yearly basis. And a couple of different things you can do in doing that. Selling it as backup, and $7 to $10 is what we have seen to be pretty successful for most partners. And Eric's going to pick up on this in a couple slides. But also selling it as a complete file sync and share solution, $15 to $20 per seat. But I'll tell you, and this last bullet is really interesting. We have some people out there that are getting as much as $35 per seat. And that's just incredible what they're doing. On the right-hand side, we have our break-even calculator. And as you can see here, you can punch in the numbers you have, including the numbers of seats included, the price you're paying for them, what you're reselling it for, and it's going to tell you over here on the right, it's going to tell you the profit difference in your gross profit margin, percentage-wise, the actual profit you're making, and then the really cool on the far right, the additional client seats needed to equal profit. So to get an equal amount of profit. And that's going to be a spreadsheet that we're going to give you access to. I would highly recommend running it to make sure you're making the money off of it that you need to. And then next we have our service plans page. And you'll get a copy of this slide deck, and you can actually click. It'll take you to a link on the eFolder site. And it allows you to post on the site, create leads, offer free trials, come up with a pricing grid like that, a matrix, that then you can just save it and you could use it. And you could, we have a number of partners put on their website, and then also, or we'll send it out. And Gary, do you have any experience with this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely brandable. So you can put your logo on there. Your potential clients, they can sign up for a trial and have immediate access. So it's going to cause you some sales leads as well. So you'll get an email letting you know somebody signed up for that trial and what package they chose. You can follow up with them and you kind of pitch it to them.
Great. Yeah, like you said, that is a link, and you'll get a copy of the slide deck, and you can click right into it, and you'll get to that service plan and create your own. As I mentioned, anyone has any questions along the way, just please post them up there. We're going to hit them as we go. We are moving quickly because I really want to get to Eric's content and Gary's. So here we have selling Anchor separately. Important to remember, you buy one seat and then you can put it on up to 3 devices, right, Gary?
You can have it on as many devices as you want, actually.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah. But in most MSP models, you're going to typically limit, 1 and 3 devices, or 1 user for 3 devices, and then, try to sell them more beyond that.
Yeah, and as you see, we have some breakout features on here. Guest access is something I really like. I think that's something you can use very well. Like if you have a law firm or something like that, and like that law firm, you could brand this for the law firm, not just for your company, for them. You can give them a really nice presence. And then if they had someone need to view a document on their server, they can actually send out a guest access, and they can get to that document, and everything looks seamless, and they can edit and make changes, and then it goes right back into where it was on the server. That's wonderful. Remote wipe and restore. You want to speak to that real quick, Gary?
Yeah. So for a lot of compliance, aspects of it, you can do a remote wipe of the Anchor data on that machine as soon as an employee is terminated from an organization, as well as any mobile devices that they have registered. It immediately breaks that link that they had created there, and they do not have access to that data any further.
It's wonderful. And then as you see on the right, we have our client cost breakout. This is just showing that if you're going to give someone all these things, you can actually kind of break it down and charge incrementally for these features that you're giving people. And then turn on what you want to, turn off what you don't need. But you don't have to just sell it as you get all of this from Anchor. You can sell it as we're giving you Anchor, and if you want this, this, and this, and you can kind of a la carte it within the actual package. I think it's very smart.
Yeah.
You get a lot more options.
Agreed.
So now we've got Eric, and Eric, as I mentioned, Workplace IT in Sioux Falls, and Eric's going to go over this side.
Sure. So as I mentioned, we've been reselling Anchor for about 4 years now. It came to us as a product that we had a smaller client. It was a construction company that came to us and said, you know what, we're using Dropbox, Google Drive, we're using all these applications and they're just not working. The manageability is not there. The product just isn't good. Find us something better. So we went out to our partners and tried to find something. And that's when we actually met eFolder, became engaged with them, and we really liked what Anchor had to give. So we came up with this pricing 4 years ago, and the pricing hasn't changed at all. The product's just grown across our managed service offerings. Like I said, when we started 4 years ago, we had one organization with 10 users. Today, now we have about 115 organizations that use Anchor, about 335 accounts that use it. We price it at $18.95 per user per month. We do get you the full file sync and share. Every organization will get 100 gigabyte of storage. We do charge $30 per month to go over that 100 gigabyte. We're maintaining the private cloud option for Anchor, so we've got to make sure to allocate the storage appropriately and not let the people run wild. And if they're going to, then they'll pay more for it. We do charge a nominal one-time setup fee. It's not much, but it's just enough to get us get the ball rolling and get everything set up if we are going to do any branding or any custom setups. There's a $9.95 workstation backup fee that we do. About 35 of our customers have accounts with workstation backups. So again, just doing a little bit of light file backups on workstations.
So Eric, is that right? You've got just a very small percentage doing the workstation backup. Pretty much everyone else is doing the full file sync and share.
Exactly. It's not something that we come out of the bat looking to sell with the workstation backup, but we do have some clients that just have an owner or somebody who just refuses to get data in the right spot, and they just say, hey, I just want this person's computer, their My Documents desktop, and everything be backed up. Can you do that? We say yes, $10 a month. So.
Great, and this one's for you again, Eric.
Part of the question that I was proposed is how do we position and value prop Anchor? We look for about 3 or 4 ways to get Anchor to our clients. One of the first ones is just our help desk. Technicians are really kind of seasoned to look for some hint words that can help our clients get to know Anchor better. One of the easiest ones is just HIPAA compliance. If we have one of our HIPAA compliant customers calling and telling us how they're using Dropbox, we kind of help them through the issue, but then we really take a step back and say, well, is this right? Should be using a free version of Dropbox to share this? Is there potential for any HIPAA, EPHI related data that we need to have secured in a compliant file sync and store? So then they'll let me know about it, so then I can meet with the organization's point of contact, go over what Anchor is and how we can do this better. Our technicians will also listen to an organization that might say, hey, we have these remote employees that they're using VPN and so much data has to go over the VPN. Maybe Anchor's a good fit for them for just a small set of their staff using the file server entitlement. Again, same situation. They let me know, our staff does, and then I reach out to the organization's point of contact and go over it and see if it's a good fit. Usually it works out pretty well.
And I have one other thing to add there. This is Gary, and I've seen a lot of partners out there that they'll take that that first bullet point there, Dropbox and other file sync and share tools out there that are more end user grade. They'll use their RMM tool, and they'll actually run a report of installed applications out there and look for those, and that'll give you a little targeted audience of trying to pitch the Anchor product to.
That's a great idea. This is Tom. Perfect. You do that too. You run when you come in, kind of an audit, kind of see everything's out there on the network.
We do it yearly for organizations that maybe need to be addressing that.
You know what I really like here, because I work on MSP best practices. I really like teaching help desk techs. You know, I don't make them into salespeople. That's not really one. It's like discovery. And that's a good point you had in there. It's one of the best resources you can have out there to take your technicians and just tell them what to look for. Don't ask them to position or sell anything. Just get them to reporting in. Hey, I saw this on the network, and I know you said this. And I used to actually like incentivize them too. You know, if something they found turned into a sale of something, why not?
Yeah, give
them throw them a few bucks, something like that. Yeah, but I think that's a great thing to do, especially with something like this, because they're really going to see, because, you know, especially managers out there and owners, you're not seeing the desktop anymore. These guys are going to see where someone pulled down Dropbox, the evidence they're using it, something in web history, something out there. And every time you see that, it's an opportunity. If you know they're using something in place of this, and you know there's some kind of vulnerability, especially if it's a consumer grade product.
Perfect.
So now we're going to go into the way I used to sell file sync and share. So I owned an MSP for 15 years, and I sold it 3 years ago. And I had moved, starting in 2008, I moved to all managed services. So I had everyone under contract, with some exceptions of prepaid hours, but I didn't sell a la carte. So everything was bundled in. So what we're doing here is we're comparing and contrasting. I have no problem with selling things individually. It's just the model I went after was to do full managed services. So what I would do is, you see here, I offered a full suite of services that include all of your support, your antivirus, your hosted exchange, your file sync and share, all for one price per month. I didn't pull it out. I didn't negotiate it. Some people say, well, we're already using this, or, you know, we don't need, they would say things like, you know, I had entered things like rescue router in there. I had a router with, you know, a cellular card, and you bring your internet back up, that kind of stuff. So I had cool things, and people tell me they didn't need that, or they already had their own exchange. And I would just say to them, listen, not everyone uses everything on this list, but you have the opportunity to under your contract. But this is our set offering. This is the suite we offer, and we actually don't change it, because we can't manage over 100 networks if we are picking out from this all the time. We can't keep track. If everyone has the same suite, it's very easy to do. But at some point, you probably will need it. And then I would find a way usually to position the file sync and share software in there. Now, I didn't, you will notice, and I will say, I don't have it listed as Anchor here or something like that because I did go through different services over time. So everything I've listed on this managed service offering is a generic name for it, giving me the flexibility to put in when I need to based on what's best for my business. But we are talking about Anchor here. So I did bundle Anchor at one time, and I had it in there. And as you see on the left, I insisted on it. And I think that's a good selling point for Anchor. Don't talk about just the benefits to them. Tell them, we can't provide the necessary support for your network, the real backups you need. We can't keep you operational, and we can't guarantee you uptime and business continuity unless you're using this. And so it's not an option. It's a requirement to work with my company that you're using this. And bundle it into your offering. And then not only position it as you need this, but position it also as we're backing up your data a second way this way too. And Gary, I don't know if you want to speak to some of these things because it sounds like, there's a lot of what we're going to get some of the years on the later slides.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely cover some of those pieces there in the later slides. But the backup feature and if it's there, they're going to use it. Whereas if it's not there, they're probably going to go and they're going to click on the Dropbox link and start downloading and using some of those unmanageable consumer grade applications.
And what I'd like to speak to also in bundling this is when you do a managed service agreement like I've laid out here, you're charging a flat price per month. The way you make more money on this is reducing the number of hours you're working. And Anchor really does this because if I make it the solution instead of VPN, then I get rid of those late night calls. Everyone out there on the phone, I'm sure, has had late night calls because someone can't connect to the VPN. And then you get rid of that right there. You make it so they can get the files and we don't have the version control problems. And probably the biggest time saver for me using file sync and share software was when someone did delete a file or was corrupted or whatever, you could restore it in any unlimited number of versions and get it back instantly. And you're not going through that time of restoring from drives or getting a hold of wherever the data is and having to do like a whole partition and all of that mess. So the time savings is built into a tool like this, especially when you bundle it this way.
And then being able to manage it all from one dashboard.
Exactly.
That's huge with the Anchor product for an MSP. So
single pane of glass, multi-tenancy. A lot of the products out there that are so-called competitors, which I really don't think a lot of them are, you're logging into a different login for each client.
Yep.
That's a real problem. This one, you log in one place, you have all your clients right there, and you can work from there. And if you need to restore for this one, you can pop right over to someone else.
And then your technicians are all completely familiar with the product for one client across your entire client space there. So,
yeah, and Eric, before we go on to Gary's slides, I don't know if you had any particular instances of where having Anchor really benefited your business in terms of time and productivity, or like I said, those late night calls and reducing that.
Yeah, and I don't have any measurable stat that says that it does. Now I can tell our clients are happier. They're able to get their data when they need it. I think that there's less phone calls that come in saying, hey, I can't get access to this folder or that folder just because it's been so reliable for our end users that are using it.
And have you done some kind of VPN, like put it as alternative to VPN before?
We have a different construction company that has a lot of remote sites, and they put these job trailers out at different areas. And one of the job trailers, they're having just terrible problems with the cell signal that they were getting. They're just running a hotspot in a job trailer, trying to VPN into the main network to download new information about the job that they were on. We showed them Anchor and let them try it out. Let all the stuff that they needed to be using saved locally on their C drives of their laptops and sync the changes back and forth. They're not having any problems anymore, even with a very limited cell signal in a very rural area.
That's a great example. I didn't even think about that. You're using someone connected by a cell signal, and that causes, over a VPN. Gary.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It's not possible. Yeah.
Yeah. If it does connect, you're pulling down a Word document and it just crashes halfway through. So that's a really good example like that. And that's the kind of thing, you have remote people that are having problems connecting, put Anchor in place, and they're going to be able to actually get their work done now. So I think we had a question.
Yep, we've got a question from Ron asking, in pricing number 2, is Anchor also the online cloud backup? See that line on right there?
Oh, the online cloud backup?
Yeah, online cloud backup. Well, online cloud backup was just using like an online service where we're just pushing the data up to, that was back in the day. It was just, that was an Iron Mountain.
Yeah, and essentially, I mean, it could be that second line item there, and you could, you know, have that all with the same application. It's however you really pitch it to the client.
Now, for example, what it might be in the scenario is, let's say this is a small office, which the contract value would have been. This is from an actual agreement I sold. Well, what happened was, let's say they didn't have any kind of SQL or anything like that. So nothing dynamic. So I can pull their VPN. I can have them use this as a VPN replacement. The online cloud backup would apply if they had things like SQL databases, QuickBooks databases, other things like that, and where I'm pushing copies of that up. But if this is a small, maybe like a law office, and their line of business app, like ProLaw, already had its own backup system built in a subscription, I could then put this in and have Anchor handle all of their cloud backup. As I said, this agreement's representative of most of the clients never really used everything on this list, but it was available to them. So I'd have something on there because maybe Anchor covers all their needs, but then maybe they switch their legal software, and now we do need to back up that SQL database separately. But also, you could actually, even if you set it up right, you could go into SQL and set up a
nightly backup.
It's a nightly backup to dump to a share that's then backed up by Anchor.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger ones is probably QuickBooks. With the smaller businesses where, you know, they're looking for that solution to keep their QuickBooks backed up, not necessarily accessible in the cloud. So the QuickBooks nightly backup to a folder that's being synchronized to Anchor would definitely be a viable solution there.
Right.
So yeah, another question from Doug. He asks, he's asking for competitive sell sheets to compare against Dropbox Business Levels, GoodDocs, OneDrive Business. And he asks, is it on the partner site or not?
Yeah, we have a number of those materials. Some of them are on there. The easiest thing to do is we can get in touch and we can get you all those materials. I will tell you, my big thing is I try to stay away from selling uncompetitive, but if you have to, then do it. I think what shows itself more is demoing Anchor, and people quickly see just what it has that the consumer grade services don't have there. But we'll have someone get you, Doug, and we'll get you those materials. We have a lot of that collateral. Gary, did you have something on that?
Yeah, so your account manager is definitely going to be a great contact to be able to get you those competitive docs as you need those as well. So
Right, and I'm really excited about this. Next are going to be Gary's slides, and I brought Gary in here, like I said, because when I first started, Gary and I started about the same time, and I couldn't believe we were on a webinar a few months ago, and it was really interesting because he's technically a sales engineer, but he understands the business too, and he started talking with some people about like the actual using it business-wise and what you get out of it, and that's a very different thing. And so he's on here as a resource, and I like using whenever possible for this kind of thing because he can bring a perspective that no one else has in the company.
Absolutely, guys. So the first piece that I usually try to discuss with a potential new partner, an existing partner out there looking to grow their business, is all tied around file server enablement, right? So I really see this being used in about 4 different scenarios. The first and most common is going to be this hybrid mode. The hybrid mode is pretty much the choosing a folder on that local server and synchronizing that up to the cloud. And then the second is going to be a cutover to a cloud. So maybe you have a smaller client out there that has 5 users and they have a file server that's aged out about 5 to 7 years. You're getting ready to present them with a quote, $5,000 to $10,000 to replace that file server. And they think that's a little too much, these days for 5 users. And maybe you present them with a second option. Second option would be, let's move your server to our cloud servers. You don't have to speak anything of Anchor or, a third-party application. It's just moving to your file server cloud. And then you're going to be able to, you're probably charging them $200 to $300 per month for that, the file server enablement. So you'd be able, sorry guys, you're distracting. So you're probably already charging them $200 to $300 per month for managing that file server on site. So you'd be able to take those funds and move those funds into a recurring fashion that's going toward the Anchor product. So for those 5 users, you're making more around $60 per user per month for that scenario, whereas that then decreases the amount of on-site overhead maintaining those Windows servers and the software there, because you're eliminating that local file server. And then the next scenario is syncing server. Maybe you have a larger client with 2 locations that have servers at those locations. Maybe you're that client's paying for MPLS tunnels, expensive MPLS tunnels to have access to that data at a different location. You can use the Anchor agent to synchronize servers between multiple locations. And in the fourth scenario there, maybe that file server is being replaced. The client opted into getting that file server replaced. It's at your office being staged, and you can use the Anchor agent to synchronize that data from the on-site server that exists today with the server that's being staged in your office. So in the past, I've had to use applications like Microsoft SyncToy, Beyond Compare, having some downtime of the data during a cutover, to be able to have that new server live on the network at the same time as the old server, whereas this could essentially create a hot cut to the new server in that scenario.
So, Gary, to that point, remember the days if you got a server and you got to sit side by side with the new server, and you're trying to copy over files.
Yep.
And you get these, it goes 3/4 of the way, right?
Yeah.
And then
hours and hours.
It bombs out, and you don't know exactly what it got and didn't until they get. So you're saying this is kind of an imaging tool almost you can use for a file server migration.
Yeah, over the internet without needing to be on that same network. So what I've done in the past is you can then make the name of the server, DNS name of the server, the IP address of the server the same. Whereas in a scenario where you're having it on the same network, you have to have a separate IP and then do a full cutover, which, in my experience, I had to change GPOs to point to different servers. There's a whole multitude of things that I had to change in that scenario versus a hot cutover, could essentially be done, at 5 o'clock and take you 30 minutes. And then that data fully synchronizes, in a couple minutes after you plugged it in.
Plus, you've already got this backup because you've already got the existing files backed up. So you make sure it's all synced up, turn off access to it, and then you throw it down on the new server.
Yep, exactly.
That's a great solution.
Yeah.
It gets rid of all those file copy errors and all of those problems associated with migrations.
Save a lot of time for you. So the next feature, which is, kind of has some dollar signs behind it, we've talked about it a little bit, is the backup. So I'll just kind of jump into a couple other bullet points that I've seen this used in the past is the ability to set up some backups without actually touching the machine. So maybe you have a CEO in the field that, travels 80% of the time. They're saving data to their desktop and documents. The Anchor application can actually monitor those folders, upload all the data, keep revisions, deleted files on there. CEO says, hey, I deleted this folder off of my desktop. I would give anything to get it back. And you say 3 minutes later, check your desktop, it's going to be back there because of the backup feature that we have built in here. Field replacement of laptops. So I'm replacing a laptop, it's aged out. I'm able to log in to the dashboard, create that backup of that documents, pictures folder for that user there. And I'm able to pull that all up to the cloud without the user ever, going down. And then I'm able to restore that data to the new laptop with minimal downtime when transitioning a user to their new laptop. Whereas in the past, I've had to copy it over to a USB drive, paste the data back onto their new machine, and just a timely process in a lot of those scenarios there.
Now, Gary, real quick, even with like a limited connection, you can still do this because of the way Anchor handles the data and moves it, right?
Absolutely, because it initially pushes that data up to the cloud. So that's going to be what consumes the most bandwidth, is that initial push up. And then it's continuously monitoring that folder. And it's looking for any revisions and deleted options. And it's going to push up only the block level changes on those revisions. And then your deleted items, of course, is just going to flag it as deleted in the cloud. And then it's going to become a deleted item, a purged item in the cloud that you have access to recover there.
Right.
Yep. So the last one is, obviously users as well. So a user, if they have the option, if that policy flag is enabled, they're able to go in and right click on their folders and select a folder to backup with just a few clicks. So it's a very easily trainable item. And that's just going to, push more data up into the cloud. The more usage that they're using is going to be the more money that you're making.
Fantastic. So that was really good. Eric, do you have anything to add on this too? In particular, you kind of mentioned some scenarios where you had limited bandwidth off cellular or something like that. What is your feeling overall about deploying Anchor when you've got remote workers?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of use cases for I call them hybrid setups, but not the traditional just full file sync and store client without a server scenarios. We've got a couple where it's just a client who has a fairly large infrastructure with 5 to 10 remote sales staff that work across the country. They all have a laptop that syncs back to Anchor with file server entitlement. Again, the construction company is one of them that we use with job trailers that just have limited internet connectivity. So those are a lot of the use cases that we're seeing for that. We also have some non-traditional clients who, again, as was mentioned earlier, law firms who just need secure file sharing. They used to send disks to everybody, but they don't want to do that anymore. Anchor is a great fit for that, to be able to set up secure shares.
Yeah, you know what? It's tax time, and accountants get a lot out of this. Mm-hmm. You have documents they need to share, spreadsheets, things to review, and Anchor makes that possible. I do want to mention that here at eFolder, we have about 400 people, I think, and we have a distributed workforce, and we use Anchor. I don't know if it's the architects of our solution, but we don't have traditional file servers here, so we practice what we preach. It is how we exchange files here. It's how we work on things. It's how we collaborate, and it works well for us, even in a large, what I think is a fairly large environment.
Yeah.
You have any comments about that, Gary?
Yeah. So actually, to add to that, we don't even use an Active Directory server here.
Yeah.
So we have no file server, no Active Directory.
Less management then.
And yeah, less management from the IT team, and it's all centralized into the Anchor product. So.
No, and this is a point too. People talk about NTFS and stuff like that. The fact is that we're moving away now from NTFS. We're moving away from having file servers. And of course, it's kind of similar to what's happening with Exchange servers. I mean, some people still have them, but most have moved to Office 365, where you're managing from a portal and the permissions are handled there.
Yep.
Not on a local server. Same things happen with file. And yes, there could be some pain moving over. You have to restructure those groups of permissions. But once you get it over, the management's a lot easier, and get rid of the file server. Move on from it.
Yep.
Time for it to be gone. You don't want to be dependent on hardware, because that hardware at some level has your name as an MSP on it, and you're responsible. If you can get it into a very good cloud situation, either your cloud or our cloud, you're going to take that onus, that problem off of your back, and you're going to make your uptime to be much better, and you're not going to be dealing with those file server problems on weekends, evenings, and just the usual maintenance.
Absolutely.
So I think that's pretty much running pretty much what I thought we would, about 35 minutes. Appreciate everyone coming. I wanted to mention we are going to get an email out, right? Are we going to post this or an email? Email out. We're going to have the deck attached, and we're also going to, it's got that link for those service pages, and then we're also going to get to this tool, this MSP breakdown calculator. And I'm Tom Watson, like I said, Director of MSP Best Practices. You're all willing to reach out to me anytime you want, help you out with any questions you have. Make sure you know how to use the tools, or any questions you have about making your MSP better.
I thought we had a question, but it's just Wayne saying thank you, Tom.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys.
All right, thanks so much.